Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the latest edition of LATICRETE virtual training. Today we're going to talk about StrataHeat. My name is Matt Snell. I handle the Connecticut, Western Mass, Hudson Valley area of New York territory, and being joined again by my good friend Glen Adams, who handles the northern New England states. All right, we're going to talk you through the parts and pieces of the system, then we're going to get into a full demo. The StrataHeat system is the most powerful and most complete system in the industry. It's comprised of 4 components, which we'll talk about individually. Right? It is an uncoupling style system, so it's really revolutionized the way that heat systems go in. Traditionally, it would be a layer of substrate would need to go in, then you'd put metal strips down, loom wire through it, need for self-leveling or patch material on top of that to encapsulate the wire. Very thick system, very labor-intensive system. Uncoupling style has really revolutionized the speed and the cost of which we can do these systems. So the uncoupling mat that it's built around is available in 2 configurations. Here we've got the sheet, which is an 8.2 square foot sheet, available 10 per carton. We've also got a 150 square foot roll. Pros and cons to each. We'll let you decide which you prefer. But basically taking that underlayment layer away, now we're using uncoupling technology, which is the only way to go. Which gives you obviously a thinner build, a lighter installation, faster installation, but also gives you the properties of an uncoupling membrane, which include crack isolation, decoupling obviously from the substrate, etc. So super high performing, right? Lug configuration with hydration channels cut in. We always talk about modified adhesives with LATICRETE products. Doing the same thing here. So the hydration channels cut into the mat allow for air to cure mortar up and down, so we can use the best quality adhesives we want for these installations. Right? Lug configuration we talk about, don't really talk about inches, we talk about lug configuration, which we'll get into with the wire spacing. Right? These get thin set down, which we'll show you shortly in the demo video, and once it's thin set to the substrate, we're ready to loom our wire and rock and roll. Right? Part 2, we've got our wires available in multiple lengths that do many different square footages. 120, 240. Coolest thing about our wire, very robust wire, very high performance wire, allows us to use it with multiple lug spacing configuration, right? Which essentially allows us to sell the system in one of 2 ways. We can sell it as a floor warming system, which is going to heat your feet and tile obviously, or we can sell it as a primary heat source, and based on the lug configuration, it'll put out enough BTUs to give us primary heat, allowing us in certain instances to remove vents that are in weird areas, radiator heaters, baseboard heaters in small areas that kind of open up the space a little bit more. So very cool. Third component, thermostat. Right? Very revolutionary, but about as much technology as you can pack into a thermostat. We've got basically 2 different flavors, if you will. We've got just a standard touchscreen programmable, and we've got the upgraded Wi-Fi touchscreen programmable. The Wi-Fi enabled has a ton of cool gadgetry, really neat app that it works in conjunction with, so you can control the system from your phone wherever you are. It's got geo-tracking, so you can track when you're leaving the house, turn the system down, when you're returning to the house, kind of fire the thing back up. Multitude of programmable options with this thing. Works with a lot of the standard smart home, Google, Nest, Alexa. Pretty cool stuff. Alexa, turn my bathroom heat on if you fancy. Very sleek design, vertical orientation. Can control BTUs, different programmable settings. You can use this system obviously for tile and stone, but it also works with certain engineered products, engineered woods, things of that nature. You can actually tell the thermostat, yeah, there's engineered wood on top of this system, and it'll automatically dumb the BTUs down so we don't cook those products out. We want you to check with the manufacturer of that material that's going on top to make sure they're okay, but as far as we're concerned, same process, then set the mat, install your wire, skim the top, put down whatever surface you want. Finally, this is really the one of a kind in the industry, if you will, as the 4th component that rounds out the system and really gives it an extra boost from performance, is the thermal pack. Right? This is basically a large pod of chemistry, if you will, that gets added to your thin set that you're going to use to skim and then set your tile. The thermal pack additive basically just makes it a much more conductive material, turns your setting bed or your adhesive layer into a heat sink, if you will. So it increases decreases your energy consumption by about 15%. Right? It promotes thermal transfusion, so it's going to give you a better thermal kind of blanket across evenly, so it's going to heat your tile more evenly. It's going to hold heat longer, so your thermostat's going to cycle through about 15% less amount of times than it normally would. So saving you money on electricity for the life of the system. The chemistry itself is static. It does not deteriorate over time, so you're going to get maximum benefit 5-10 years down the road as you do from day one, right? Now, obviously, we talk about all of these LATICRETE products used in conjunction with our LATICRETE adhesives, grouts, sealants, etc. One of the biggest things we sell to, again, is the system warranty aspect of an installation. You've got a very expensive tile floor over now a very mildly expensive heated floor. There's a lot of parts and pieces going in there, and it's nice to have the backing of up to lifetime system warranty based on the quality of materials used for the installation. All right, let's kick it on over to Glenn here, and let's get through a full build. Quick disclaimer and shout out to our good friend Art Minty. Hope you're doing well. As always, with any of these products, we want you to refer to the LATICRETE website. Check out the technical data sheets for installation instructions and proper intended use. Couple quick items on the wire, right? Unlike some of our competitors, we do not require the testing of the wire with a megawatt, the registration of the wire online. What we do ask you to do is when you open the box, every wire has a tag on it with an ohms reading. We want you to use a standard ohm meter to test it out of the box. If you have a squawker, you want to hook it up during install, that's fine. And then test it one more time after the installation. If you've got within 5% of the printed ohms reading on the tag here, you're good to go. All of our warranties, when they come to system warranties, are implied. It's implied that you're doing your job right and that we made the wire correctly, so we can figure it out from there. Right, wire's got a 10-foot cold lead. Right, this can go up the wall. Wire's got 2 nodes on it. One where the cold lead meets the wire itself. Right, this is going to get buried in the mat, and then at the end of the wire, we've got another node, smaller, that's also going to get installed into the mat. None of these wires are able to be cut. They're all able to be repaired, but they're all designed to perform at the manufactured length. So no cutting of the wires. We've got a diagram that shows exactly how many square feet you can do based on lug configuration that we're going to show you here shortly for any given wire, but wire cannot be cut. All right, we got Glenn here back in business. All right, he's cleaned the substrate. And we have 254 platinum mixed up, ready to rock. Using a 1/4 by 3/16 V-notch trowel to set our mat. We're going to mix the thin set on a little bit on the loose side, as we're using a smaller notch trowel, and we want the material to wet out and grab onto the back of the fleece. Nice. So always step one, you're going to burnish your material into the substrate, ensuring maximum contact. And then we're going to comb it out, not like that, single directions. He knows what he's doing. He's getting warmed up. We talked about the uncoupling membrane. Again, just to reiterate, it's available in 2 different packaging configurations, 8.2 square feet per sheets, available 10 to a carton, sometimes sold individually at distribution. Nice thing about the sheet, lays nice and flat. You can bring as much as you need to the job site at any given time. Roll works as well. If you're doing larger areas, you can kick out a nice 150 square foot roll pretty quickly. Both have the same lug configuration, so they marry up well next to each other in case you need to use one side by side. Right, no overlapping of this material. Really, the only thing you got to do is make sure that the lugs line up, obviously, so that your wire can loom through. Right, you see Glenn getting a good setting into the adhesive layer. Notice the StrataHeat mat as well as our StrataMat standard uncoupling is a kind of a translucent type material, so you see your contact right away. You don't have to continuously pull up corners, make sure you're getting good contact to your adhesive bed. You can pretty much see right through it. Another thing that does, it allows you to easily see chalk lines, which obviously that's a nice little feature. Hydration channels we talked about. Again, whether it's StrataHeat or StrataMat, the hydration channels that are cut in there, that's what allows us to use that modified adhesive, that quality adhesive for any of our installations. So on top of plywood substrate, 3/4 Advantech, no problem. On top of concrete slabs, mortar beds, basically using modified underneath as well as modified on top.
Here we are with a box of StrataHeat wire. We're going to briefly go over the contents and what you'll find inside the box. First thing you'll notice, installation manual for the wire and the entire heat system. Very important. 36 pages, all the details you need for a proper installation of StrataHeat.
Read them all.
Next you'll see spool of wire. And then lastly, sensors. You notice our sensors are very small, fit nicely between the mat. You'll notice a sensor one comes inside the spool of wire and another one will come inside the thermostat. We recommend that you install both into the floor and only hook one up to the thermostat. The second one is just used as a backup in case the sensor fails for whatever reason. So next, we're going to get into the installation of the wire over our strata heat membrane.
Now for the installation of the wire. Our mat's already been set, we're ready to put wire in. All right, we talked about the two different ways we can sell this system. One is a floor warming system, which is going to heat your tile and your feet. The other way we can sell this system is a primary heat source. So in an instance where you're looking for additional supplemental primary heat, or in some smaller areas where you want it to be the only heat source, and to be able to remove a cast iron radiator, something like that in the bathroom, we have the ability to do that BTU wise. We're putting out a ton of wattage. So lug configuration really determines what differentiates one from the other. You can see Glenn putting in a 232 lug configuration. This is going to be giving you maximum BTUs, right? This is going to heat a space up very well. The criteria for primary heat is very similar, the same as baseboard heat. You got to take into consideration a lot of things when making that determination: exterior doors and windows, R values, substrate, etc. But you know, for all intents and purposes, a 232 lug configuration is going to put out enough heat to heat a space. Again, radiant heat being the most comfortable of all the heating options. All right, so we talk about primary heat source 232 configuration all day long. In some cases, out in a standard 333 configuration, we're also putting out enough BTUs. Really depends on the construction of the building. Glenn's showing you here the 232, and we'll move to 333. All right, one of the other things we have the ability to do because of the amount of heat that this thing's putting out is for more economical or for installation related situations where you want to maybe widen the spacing up, maybe to extend the wire a little bit further than you thought. We can go to a 343 configuration to give you a little bit more square footage out of a wire. And we talked about each wire not being able to be cut, which you probably tell here we cut this wire for demonstration purposes only. But the fact that you can't cut the wire means you have to have a pretty good idea of the square footage of the room you're putting these materials in. Right? We never want to put a heating wire under a static fixed anything, if you will. So a toilet, a vanity, anything that's going to be fixed that could create a possible heat trap. We do not want to install a wire underneath. If we've got an elevated clawfoot tub, if we've got a vanity that's mounted to the wall that's got airspace underneath it, feel free to do so. We typically hold it back off the wall 4 to 6 inches. Quite frankly, nobody's going to be walking there. But with these multiple lug configurations, if you figure a room that's 60 square feet, a wire to fit a room that's 60 square feet at 3-peg configuration, if you get there and you figure out that, yep, there's a vanity there that wasn't accounted for, we actually need a 52 square foot wire, we can go to a 323 configuration, bury all that extra wire. It saves you from having to drive back to the distributor, change out the wire, drive back to the job site. Very versatile wire, right? Very simple installation. Again, with the node coming down from the cold lead would be mounted into the floor. The node on the end of the wire is also going to be installed into the mat. Outside of that, Glenn flat trowel everything. From this point, we're ready to rock.
Remember, when used in conjunction, when your thinset's used in conjunction with a thermal pack, at 3-peg spacing, we are rated as a radiant heat source.
Now we've got our wire loomed in, we're ready to encapsulate. So this is the point where we decide thermal pack, yep, we're going to use it. Obviously, we're going to maximize the efficiency of the system, 15% less expensive to run from an electrical consumption standpoint. All right, so just talk about the thermal pack real quick. It is a bag that comes with 2 individual pods, like you see here. Right? Each individual pod does about 25 pounds of thinset. So if you're mixing a half bucket, we're going to use one of these. If you're mixing a full 50 pound, we're going to throw both in there. These are dispersible, so you're just going to take the plastic itself, throw it right in the water, it disperses, mix it with your thinset like you would mix per instructions on the bag, and we're ready to rock. It's a darker material, so it's going to come out of the bucket a little bit darker, black if you will. Right? A couple things on that. This material does not work well with light colored stone that require white adhesive. And one other note, the thermal pack, it maximizes its effectiveness with standard materials such as 254 platinum, 4XLT materials like that, the lightweights don't work quite as well. So in installation where you want to maximize, use the thermal pack, recommendation is use 254, 4XLT, something like that. All right, we're ready to install. One other question that comes up with the thermal pack is if you're going to install your wire, skim it, come back the next day, do you use the thermal pack and the layer you use to skim, or the layer to set your tile the following day? The answer is actually both. We want to maximize the amount of material that's in your total setting bed. So ideally you would use it in both layers. At the very least, I would use it in the layer to set your actual tile. We have had success setting natural stone or light colored stones with this material by installing the thermal pack in the encapsulation coat on day 1 and then coming back and setting the stone with a weight adhesive on day 2 is an option. All right, so we've got 2 different ways we can handle this. Larger area, we can do what Glenn's doing here. We can basically fill in the entire mat and then let that dry overnight, come back. It's easier to get on top of, snap lines, get everything squared away for your installation. But you also do have the ability in smaller areas to backfill this and then come right back over it with more fresh material and a trowel and set your tile immediately. So for smaller areas, you want to knock them all out in one day, absolutely no problem. Skim coat it, come back the next day, also no problem. All right, notice Glenn, singular direction. We're gonna backplater our tile. Maximum amount of thermal pack everywhere, getting full transfer, full thermal diffusion. And we're gonna just set tile, make some money, rock and roll. All right. So from here, we just rock and roll, good to go. Hydration channels, again, gonna allow our modified adhesive to dry as it would overnight. We're ready to come back, route this thing in the morning, get on to the next one.